Have that smile on my face, and like I said again, it's going to be hard to knock it off. I know you're going to try, but I don't know if it's going to happen.
That's an exchange you don't like to see with anybody,
Nope.
but it is certainly indicative of the kind of year it's been for this ball club.
In the world of baseball, there are good teams, bad teams, and then there's the 1992 New York Mets.
The Bluebirds are in full voice at Shea Stadium.
A team so spectacularly dysfunctional, they earned the title, the worst team that money could buy.
Tonight, more controversy following the latest reports of an alleged sex scandal involving the New York Mets.
This is the story of a roster filled with big names, bloated contracts, and even bigger egos, all adding up to one of the most infamous seasons in baseball history. To understand the 1992 Mets, you have to go back 6 years prior.
Game 6 of the 1986 World Series.
The Mets were New York's team in the 80s.
The winning run is at second base with 2 out, 3-2 to Mookie Wilson. Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight.
And after winning it all in 86, they captivated the city.
Got him.
They called them the Amazing Mets in 1969 when they last won the World Series. So what do you call these champions?
We are the best in the world for now and for the next 15 years. The New York Mets are the best baseball team in the world.
I brought this last week. I knew they were going to go all the way.
Something they haven't had a cause to do like this since 1969. Reporting from 3rd Avenue, Bob O'Brien, Channel 5 News.
With one of the greatest rosters of all time assembled, ticker tape parades were going to be the norm for these Mets.
'86, year of the Mets. 1987, year of the Mets. 1988, year of the Mets.
By 1990, the team was almost unrecognizable. The dynasty that was all but guaranteed never was. The Mets let Ray Knight, the World Series MVP, walk in free agency. They watched as Doc and Derail slipped further and further down bad paths off the field. And after a rocky start to the 1990 season, World Series manager Davey Johnson was fired and replaced by third base coach Buddy Harrelson. The Mets managed 91 wins that year, but failed to make the playoffs for the second consecutive season. And in 1991, the Mets went 77-84, their first losing season in 7 years. It was that offseason that would bring more changes and set the wheels in motion for the biggest failure in baseball history. After a 5th place finish, the architect of the 86 World Series champion Mets stepped down as general manager.
Harry Minor, plus Davey and some great ball players, we were able to do it.
Frank Cashin, as well known for building the 86 roster as he was for dismantling it, was set to retire. Cashin was replaced by Al Harrison, who had worked as his assistant GM for the last 4 years.
A quick word from Fred Wilpon, one of the owners of the ball club.
Well, I'm very thrilled. I'm thrilled for New York. I'm thrilled for the New York Mets.
At the time, the franchise was co-owned by Nelson Doubleday and Sterling Equities, the group led by Fred Wilpon and Saul Katz. This ownership duo had backed Cashin's aggressive spending in the 1980s, which helped build a championship roster, and they were ready to do the same for Harrison.
Mets manager Bud Harrelson unhappy with the call because
Harrison's first major move was the abrupt firing of fan favorite Buddy Harrelson from his role as manager, a decision that didn't sit well with many in the organization or amongst fans.
Jeff Torborg is going to single what's on.
To replace him, Harrison made an aggressive play. He lured Jeff Torborg away from the Chicago White Sox despite Torborg still being under contract. Just 2 years earlier, Torborg had won AL Manager of the Year after a 94-win season with Chicago. Harrison handed him a $2.7 million contract. Compared to his $250,000 salary with Chicago, Torborg happily made the jump. It was the first of several splashy, headline-grabbing moves that would come to define the Mets 1992 season.
They hit one's arm. Get a good jump. Be very aggressive.
Coming off his time with the Pirates, Bobby Bonilla was a 4-time All-Star, 3-time Silver Slugger, and finished 3rd in back-to-back MVP voting. And he was the most highly sought-after free agent of the offseason.
Bobby Bonilla has left the Pittsburgh Pirates after 6 seasons. He signed as a free agent with the New York Mets.
Harrison inked him to a landmark deal for both the Mets and baseball.
Bobby Bonilla will make $29 million over the next 5 years, a figure that surpasses the gross national product of some third world countries.
This New York homeboy is in your face.
Enjoy your millions, all right? And good luck in New York.
With Bobby Bo aboard, the Mets tried to fill in the gaps around him with a new first baseman in Eddie Murray, who, even at 36 years old, the future Hall of Famer signed a 2-year, $7.5 million contract. The age wasn't a factor for Murray, and it wouldn't be for Willie Randolph either. The former Yankee and world champion signed a contract for $500,000. Modest compared to that of Bonilla or Murray's deals, but another splashy move nonetheless. And with Dwight Gooden no longer the dominant force he once was, Harrison knew the Mets needed a new ace to anchor the rotation.
2 out, top of the 9th. Curveball hit right to Terry Shepard. He's going to get it. Brett Saberhagen pitches the first no-hitter.
He traded Kevin McReynolds and former top prospect Greg Jeffries to Kansas City in exchange for 2-time Cy Young winner Brett Saberhagen, a pitcher with elite credentials but a growing reputation for being injury-prone and difficult to manage.
I'd like to think that Jeff Torborg plus Eddie Murray plus Bobby Bonilla is a heck of a Christmas present to Mets fans, and we're hoping a lot of them pack our ballpark next year.
Harrison set out to build the Mets into a winner using his credit card. And by the end of the offseason, the Mets entered 1992 with the highest payroll in baseball history at just under $45 million. The Mets opened 1992 on the road at Busch Stadium against the Cardinals. And for at least one day, the hype seemed justified.
Deep to right field, and it's gone. The Mets on top, 4-2. Bobby Bonilla with his second home run of the night.
The 1992 Mets were off and running. But how long would the good times last?
I'm sorry. Bobby Bonilla's out. He's out to challenge Bosky after he gets hit by the pitch.
The Mets finished May with a 12-15 record and now just sat one game over 500. And the high-profile additions were not delivering as Harrison had hoped. Bonilla, after his 2-homer performance on opening day, didn't hit his next one until the 40th game of the season. And he was hearing it from Mets fans.
Fans getting a little bit impatient with Bonilla.
The boos were so intense, he resorted to wearing earplugs on the field.
How about this, Bobby, with earplugs?
Saberhagen exited his start on May 15th and missed the next 2 months with injury. And even worse, reports of cliques in the locker room intensified. The younger players were alienated by the veterans, especially Murray and Bonilla. In June, the team was hovering around 500, but then they stumbled to an 11-17 record. They were swept by the Pirates, and at the end of it all, they were 31-35 through their first 66 games. Howard Johnson struggled with his transition to center, committing errors in the field and having a career low at the plate. And even worse, Torborg, the man charged with leading this chaotic group, had lost his grip. The oft-injured Vince Coleman shoved Torborg on the field, and then later again in the clubhouse, the team had to suspend him, but it didn't change anything.
I don't think there's anything I detest more in and around the game than scapegoating. It is one of the worst of human traits, and we all share the blame for the start of this ball club this year, all of us.
Attendance at Shea dropped to an 8-year low, just 26,000 per game. The Mets were a sinking ship. Team meetings turned to shouting matches. The New York media dubbed them the Bronx Zoo of Queens. Bonilla was having the worst season of his career, and he was done with the fans and the media.
Well, come on, you make your move. No, you stupid. Didn't I tell you to leave? You make your move.
After losing 7 in a row at the start of August, the team fell 12.5 games back of first. It was then that Harrison made a move that would haunt the Mets for years to come.
For the 4th year in a row, Jays manager Pat Gillick has made another trade in the stretch drive. Gillick sent rookie Jeff Kent and a player to be named later to the New York Mets for pitcher David Cone.
We had to make a decision based on an opportunity in front of us about how realistic our chances were to sign David Cone. It was clear to us that it was not going to be easy. I assessed them at best as 50-50, and maybe that's optimistic.
The Mets were waving the white flag. By the middle of the month, Bonilla and Saberhagen were still hurt. John Franco missed time too, and without their ace now, all that was left to do was play out the strain. Fittingly, the Mets would find themselves in Pittsburgh for a special occasion at the end of September.
2 out, nobody on.
It was part of another 7-game losing streak for the Mets, who watched as their season mercifully ended a week later.
And way back when, everyone thought the Mets would be contending for the championship.
The Mets finished with a 72-90 record, 24 games back of the Pirates for first place, and were officially the worst team that money could buy.
After all the money, all the hype, all the 92 Mets won was the Ishtar Award.
1992 was ugly, but the fallout leading into 1993 was somehow even worse.
That's the Mets in a nutshell this season. A little bit of everything, a whole lot of nothing. They're the worst team in the NL East.
Vince Coleman threw a firecracker out of his car in Los Angeles yesterday. Eric Davis says this: the firecracker allegedly landed near some baseball fans who were looking for autographs.
That same offseason, Bob Klapisch released The Worst Team That Money Could Buy, a book that chronicled the chaos and dysfunction of the 92 Mets. And Bobby Bonilla did not take it well.
Make your move, partner. Because I'll hurt you.
You pardon me?
Whatever, you take it as you see. It's just, you know, like the homeboy said back home, we just chilling. Make your move.
The 93 Mets went 59-101, their 5th worst season in franchise history, topped only by the expansion years of the early 60s. Harrison was fired, Torborg was let go mid-season, and the team was rudderless, dysfunctional, and at rock bottom. So why do we still talk about the 1992 Mets to this day? They've been a case study in how not to build a team. You can't just stack names on a roster and expect greatness. And when egos go unchecked, things unravel quickly.
This is the day he gets to collect a very nice paycheck without having to do anything.
$1,193,248, and don't forget the 20 cents.
We are all reminded of the 1992 Mets on July 1st, MLB Deferment Day, but more popularly known as Bobby Bonilla Day. While many fans don't realize that Bonilla's deferment deal came from his second stint with the Mets in 2000, for most fans, he's forever tied to the disaster of 1992, when Bonilla was the face of a team that imploded under the weight of its own hype. The 1992 Mets weren't just bad, they were a cautionary tale, a reminder that chemistry, leadership, and smart roster construction matter just as much as talent. So the next time your team signs every big free agent, remember the 1992 Mets and ask, is this a championship squad or just the worst team that money could buy?